He spent most of his life as a slave, yet he became freer than the emperors who owned him. Around 50 AD, in the heart of Rome, there was a man who had nothing. No rights, no property, no control over his own body. He was a slave. His master could beat him, sell him, or kill him at any time. But this man discovered something that changed everything. That real freedom has nothing to do with your circumstances. It comes from one thing only: discipline over yourself. His name was Epictetus, and what he learned in chains can set you free today. Most people think freedom means doing whatever you want. No rules, no limits, no one telling you what to do. Just pure choice. Wake up when you want, eat what you want, say what you want, go where you want. That's freedom. Right? Wrong? That's not freedom. That's chaos. And chaos doesn't make you free. It makes you a slave to every impulse, every emotion, every desire that pops into your head. Real freedom is something completely different. And Epictetus figured it out while he had no freedom at all. Think about his situation. He's a slave in ancient Rome. He can't choose his day, can't choose his work, can't even choose if he lives or dies. Everything external is controlled by someone else. But here's what's crazy. In that situation, with zero external freedom, he found total internal freedom. How? By realizing one simple truth. You can't control what happens to you, but you can always control how you respond. Always, no matter what. That's the only real freedom that exists. And it's available to everyone, slave or emperor. Epictetus said it like this: some things are in our control and some things are not. The things in our control are our opinions, our motivations, our desires, our aversions, basically, the things that are our own doing. Everything else is not in our control. Your body, your property, your reputation, your position. These things are not your own doing. Read that again. He's drawing a line. On one side is everything external. Your circumstances, other people's opinions, what happens to you, your health, your wealth, your status. None of that is truly in your control. You can influence it, but you can't control it. It can be taken away at any moment. On the other side is everything internal. Your thoughts, your judgments, your responses, your character, your choices. This is the only thing you truly control. And this is where your freedom lives. Most people spend their entire lives focused on the wrong side. They stress about things they can't control. They base their happiness on external outcomes. They give their peace away to circumstances and other people. And then they wonder why they feel powerless. Epictetus lived the opposite way. He focused entirely on what he could control: his thoughts, his reactions, his character. And by doing that, he became untouchable. Nothing external could disturb him because he didn't base his freedom on anything external. There's this story about how Epictetus became disabled. His master was twisting his leg, probably as punishment or just cruelty. Epictetus calmly said, "You're going to break it." The master kept going. The leg broke, and Epictetus simply said, "See, I told you." No anger, no begging, no emotional reaction. Just acceptance of what he couldn't control and discipline over what he could. His response: that's not weakness. That's strength. The strongest kind. Because most people would break mentally in that moment. They'd be filled with rage, hatred, fear, despair. But Epictetus stayed free inside, even while his body was being broken. Now, here's where it gets practical. Epictetus said that freedom comes from wanting what already is. Think about that. Most people are trapped because they want things to be different. They want more money. They want a different job. They want a better relationship. They want to be somewhere else, and that constant wanting keeps them in mental prison. But if you can discipline yourself to accept what is, while working to change what you can, you're free. Not because your circumstances are perfect, but because you're not mentally enslaved by them anymore. He also taught something radical about desires. He said, if you want to be free, don't wish for things to happen as you want them to. Instead, wish for things to happen as they actually do happen, then you'll be at peace. This sounds like giving up, but it's not. It's about understanding what you control. You don't control the outcome. You control your effort. You control your choices. You control your response. That's it. And when you accept that, you stop suffering over things you were never in control of anyway. Let's go deeper. Epictetus divided all of life into two categories: things you control and things you don't. And he said the path to freedom is simple. Focus all your energy on what you control. Let go of everything else. Sounds easy, but try it. Try going one day without worrying about what other people think, without stressing about outcomes you can't control, without getting upset about things that already happened. You'll realize how much of your mental energy is wasted on the uncontrollable. And that wasted energy is what keeps you trapped. Every time you worry about something you can't control, you give away your freedom. Every time you base your happiness on an external outcome, you make yourself a slave to circumstances. Every time you need validation from others, you hand them power over your peace. Epictetus saw all of this clearly, and he said the way out is discipline. Not the fun kind of discipline where you wake up early and work out. The hard kind. The kind where you discipline your mind to stay focused on what you control. Where you discipline your desires to want only what's in your power to have. Where you discipline your emotions to respond rather than react. This is why freedom comes from discipline. Because without discipline, you're controlled by everything. Your emotions control you. Your desires control you. Other people control you. Circumstances control you. You have no freedom because you have no control over yourself. But with discipline, you can be free anywhere. In prison, in poverty, in pain, in any situation. Because your freedom is internal. It's in how you think and how you respond. And that's always in your control. Now let's talk about how this applies to your life right now. Because you're probably thinking, okay, but I'm not a slave. I have choices, I have options. How does this help me? Here's how. You're more enslaved than you think. You're enslaved to your phone, to social media, to what people think, to your comfort zone, to your habits, to your emotions, to instant gratification. You think you're free, but you're controlled by all of this. Real freedom would be choosing to put your phone down and actually doing it. Choosing to work on something hard and sticking with it. Choosing to be okay when people don't like you. Choosing to do what's right even when it's uncomfortable. That's freedom. And it requires discipline. Think about your goals. Whatever you're trying to achieve. Are you disciplined enough to focus only on what you control? Your effort, your consistency, your choices, or are you constantly stressed about the outcome, which you don't fully control? Are you worried about whether it'll work? Whether people will like it? Whether it'll be good enough? That's mental slavery. Epictetus would tell you to shift your focus. Don't attach your peace to the outcome. Attach it to your effort. Because you control your effort. You can always say, I did my best with what was in my control. That's freedom. That's peace. Everything else is outside your domain. Or think about relationships. How much stress comes from trying to control how other people feel about you, how they treat you, what they think? You can't control any of that. So why base your happiness on it? That's giving them control over you. That's making yourself their slave. Discipline means accepting that you can't control others. You can only control how you show up, how you treat them, how you communicate, how you respond to their behavior. That's your domain. Everything else is theirs. And when you truly accept that, relationships become so much easier, because you're not trying to control what you never could. Epictetus also talked about how we make ourselves miserable. He said, it's not things that disturb us. It's our judgments about things. Someone insults you. The insult itself doesn't hurt you. It's just words. What hurts is your judgment that the insult matters, that it means something about you, that you should be upset. But that judgment is in your control. You can choose to see the insult differently. Maybe the person is having a bad day. Maybe they're insecure. Maybe their opinion doesn't define you. The freedom is in choosing your interpretation. That's discipline. That's control. Most people never realize they have this power. They think their emotions just happen to them. Someone does something and they automatically get angry. Something goes wrong and they automatically get stressed. But Epictetus is saying there's a gap there, between the event and your emotion. And in that gap, you have a choice. That's where your freedom lives. Training yourself to use that gap is discipline. It's hard. It goes against your programming. Your brain wants to react automatically. But if you can slow down, notice the gap, and choose your response, you become free. Nobody can make you angry. Nobody can stress you out. Nobody can control your internal state, because you're disciplined enough to control it yourself. Here's the ultimate test, Epictetus said. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Why? Because caring about what people think is slavery. If you need everyone to see you as smart, successful, and impressive, you're enslaved to their opinions. You'll never be free. But if you're disciplined enough to not care, to just focus on being your best self, regardless of how it looks, you're free. That's the hardest discipline. Because ego wants validation. Ego wants approval. Ego wants to look good. Training yourself to ignore that voice is freedom. Epictetus went from being an actual slave to teaching philosophy to the most powerful people in Rome. His student, Marcus Aurelius, became emperor. Why? Because Epictetus understood something that most people never learn. That freedom isn't about your circumstances. It's about your character. And character is built through discipline. Every time you choose discipline over impulse, you become more free. Every time you control your reaction instead of being controlled by it, you become more free. Every time you focus on what you control instead of what you don't, you become more free. This is the opposite of what culture tells you. Culture says freedom is having no limits. Do what feels good. Follow your heart. Live your truth. But Epictetus would say that path leads to slavery. Slavery to your impulses. Slavery to your emotions. Slavery to circumstances. Real freedom is discipline. Discipline over your mind. Discipline over your choices. Discipline over your responses. That's what makes you untouchable. That's what makes you free no matter what happens. Epictetus died free. Not because he was released from slavery, though he was eventually, but because he was never enslaved in his mind. He controlled what he could control. He let go of everything else. And that made him freer than any emperor. The question is, are you free? Or are you enslaved to your phone, your emotions, your desires, your need for approval, your circumstances? Because if you're waiting for external conditions to be perfect before you feel free, you'll never be free. Freedom comes from within, and it comes from discipline. Watch the next video for more truth.